Good morning, Tampa Bay. Happy Wednesday, November 16th. We're already halfway through November. It's absolutely ridiculous. We're always it's just going by so fast. And I feel like I'm telling you, I'm feeling like we're getting closer to needing to go. Got a little echo here. I'm feeling like we need to start considering going 2 hours. 8 to 10 every morning. I'm probably hold off for the rest of the year. That's what I'm thinking. We'll probably hang on for the remainder of the year. We'll do this year 1 hour, and then next year come out with an absolute bang. Multiple live shows every day, not just featuring me because I got to do other stuff too, but multiple live shows every day. I'm telling you right now, be prepared for the Channelside Sports takeover. Absolute takeover of this area starting in January 2023. You know what it is today, man. We already know what it is. NFL power rankings. I'm going to go through my teams. We're going to talk about some of the best wide receivers in the NFL as well. I think that if we're looking at guys like Justin Jefferson, has he taken over? Is he officially the best wide receiver in the NFL? Possible. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to figure this out. We're going to do this together. For those of you that are jumping in the chat, thank you very much for hopping in, hitting the thumbs up button. I do want to say that we are not talking Christmas movies today. We're doing that tomorrow. Tomorrow is NFL Pick'em and Christmas movie Pick'em. We ain't doing it today. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it with you guys today. We're doing it tomorrow. On this day in 1990, the greatest movie for Christmas was ever released. Home Alone came out. We're not talking about it. I'm leaving it at that. We'll talk about the rest of it tomorrow. We're going through NFL power rankings today. We're going to preview the Magic and the Timberwolves, and we're going to talk about the Tampa Bay Lightning getting it done in overtime. And Nick Paul said it the best last night. The bench stayed calm after the Dallas Stars tied it up 4-4 late in the third to send the game into overtime when it looked like the game was in hand. But before we do that, we're going to take a pause for the cause and say hello to BetUS.
Listen up, sports fans. Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
There we are. We're back. Welcome back. Head on over to BetUS.com. Use the promo code Channelside. Sign yourself up, and account get 125% deposit bonus. No cap. Now, when I say no cap, I mean no cap on the amount of bonus that you're going to get, but also no cap. I can't. I don't know if I'm going to use that phrase properly. I'm going to sound mid. I'm going to sound. Jesus. But here we are. And head on over to BetUS.com. 125% deposit bonus. All you got to do is tell them that Channelside Sports sent you by using the promo code Channelside, and they will hook you up. Trusted for nearly 3 decades in the sports wagering game. Doesn't really get much more dedicated and trustworthy than that, in my opinion. But nonetheless, here we are. Power rankings heading into week 11. There's been some shifts. There have been some shifts. I've got Minnesota as the number 1 overall team in the NFL. How do you not put Minnesota number 1 after the comeback in Buffalo and the win in Buffalo? How do you not put them number 1? It's such a difficult ask for you to not have them listed as the number 1 overall team. I think that's absolutely bananas if we're not going to have the Minnesota Vikings listed as the number 1 team in the NFL. 8-1, just beat the AFC favorite at least at one point, the AFC favorite. The Buffalo Bills are seemingly kind of, they're in a lull period right now. You see where I've got them. I've got the Buffalo Bills all the way back at number 9 right now. But if we're looking at the grand scheme of things, maybe the Minnesota Vikings are for real. I talked about this with Chip and Nikki on Channelside Bets last Sunday. Maybe the Vikings are for real. Maybe it was the coaching staff previously that caused the Minnesota Vikings to quote unquote Minnesota Vikings themselves late in the season. Right? Maybe that's what it was. Because right now it looks like all bets are off. This is the best team in the NFC. Now, I know divisional matchups are difficult, right? I know that that's a thing. Divisional matchups can be difficult for other teams when you watch like Philly and Washington. It doesn't matter how bad one team is. When they meet, because they play so often, they're so familiar with each other. When they meet, it's not a walk in the park. I wouldn't even call it a trap game because divisional games are just difficult regardless. We know something about difficult divisional games here. Ask the Carolina Panthers. Ask the Atlanta Falcons. We beat the Falcons by 6 points. We should have mopped the floor with the Falcons, right? Divisional games are always tough. But when you're the Minnesota Vikings and you come out and you have only lost one game, honestly, at this point, like, I look at that one loss and I go, okay, that one loss for the Minnesota Vikings isn't as bad as the one loss for the Philadelphia Eagles, in my opinion, right? Because the Eagles were just simply outplayed for the entire game. That was, I mean, the Eagles were down against the Cardinals. They were like, the Eagles have had, I'm not going to say the Eagles have had a cake schedule because you play who you play. You play who you're scheduled to play. I'm not a fan of, oh, well, I don't think that they're a real team because they've only played this. Like, whatever. You play who you play. What we knew about the Philadelphia Eagles is that they were 8-0. Didn't matter who they played. They had won 8 games and they lost 0. That has to account for something, especially 8 weeks into the season. You want to say, oh, yeah, what, they're 2-0 and they've played 2 crap teams? Sure. But they were 8-0. If you still don't count games 8 weeks into the NFL season, that's on you, and that's the stupidest take I've ever heard. Maybe not ever, but that's one of the stupidest takes I've ever heard. By the way, how do you guys like the new little layout here? I try to switch things up here, do it on the fly as we're going. I feel like it looks better, right? It looks more uniform. You can see more. It's not a loose cannon leprechaun beard, but it is a beard nonetheless, and it's very messy this morning because I woke up late. But I think the Minnesota Vikings are the best team in the NFL. I don't think that there's a better team right now, and they proved that when they beat the Bills. That's all it took for me, because I was going out on a limb and saying the Buffalo Bills were the best team in the NFL, and now look what's happened. Now, how are the Buffalo Bills looking? I mean, it's not pretty if you're talking about the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen obviously pissed off. Well, should he have played? Whether he should have played or not is kind of irrelevant at this point because he did play. Right? He did play. The AFC East is super tight, though. The Bills fell to 3rd. On a 2-game losing streak, the Dolphins now own the AFC East. The Jets are in 2nd place with a 6-3 record. The Bills at that 3rd spot, 6-3, and the New England Patriots at 5-4. Obviously, they were on the bye, so they didn't get that extra game. But that division is tightened up. Nobody thought that division would be as difficult and tough as it is. Same thing with the NFC East. You got the Eagles 8-1, Giants 7-2, Cowboys 6-3, and the Commanders are now 500. Every team in that division is 500 or better. The NFC West can't say the same thing. Certainly can't say the same thing for the NFC South or the NFC North. Like, it's a very heavy It's a very top heavy league this year. And it's really just kind of two divisions running it. Look at the AFC North. Second place team, Cincinnati Bengals, 1 game over 500. 5-4. AFC South, second place team, 4-5-1. Under 500. Kansas City, the Los Angeles Chargers, 5-4. 1 game over 500. NFC North, Green Bay Packers, second place, 4-6. 1 game under 500. Falcons, 4-6. 1 game under 500. It's a very, very dominating performance from basically just two divisions. And ironically, the top two on my power rankings aren't even in those divisions. So we've got the 8-1 Minnesota Vikings as to me, I don't think that you can argue that they're the best team in the NFL currently. I really don't think you can. They're winning close games. They've got a point differential of plus 35. They're winning close games, right? They're not just blowing teams out. Because to me, if you're blowing a team out, that doesn't mean that you're necessarily that much better, right? Like, it's matchups. If you're winning close games, that to me tells me that you're a better team. You might not be as explosive, right? So like if we look at the Eagles point differential is plus 79, but that's because they're an explosive offense. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith can take the top off of a defense. And then you've got Jalen Hurts underneath who can either throw the deep bomb or he can run the ball. Look at the Buffalo Bills, plus 99. They're 6-3 with a plus 99 point differential, guys. That's how explosive that offense is. That doesn't mean that they're functioning as a solid team, though, in my mind, when I'm looking at it. I do think the Bills get off the schneid. I do think that they figure it out. I still, I might not have them in terms of where my current power rankings are. But again, these change week to week, right? The Bills right now are on a 2-game losing streak. And not a great 2-game losing streak. You lost to the Jets and then you lost to the Vikings. You had leads in both, and you couldn't hold on to the lead in both. That to me is a problem if you're the Buffalo Bills. That's why I've got them all the way down to 9 right now, because they've got problems and we don't know if they've got answers. We need to see answers. We need to see something better. I got the Kansas City Chiefs at number 2. The Chiefs, they just roll, man. They just roll. 7-2, 4-1 at home, 3-1 on the road. They're on a 3-game win streak, plus 64 in point differential. Patrick Mahomes is leading the NFL in passing yards. Who would have thought that Patrick Mahomes is going to lead the NFL in passing yards after losing Tyreek Hill and not having a top 5? Travis Kelce's number 7 overall, right? Who would have thought that we would be talking about Patrick Mahomes 9 games in being the league leader in passing yards? Who would have thought that? That to me that's kind of nuts. You get rid of the fastest wide receiver in the NFL, and he's still holding it down. 2,936 yards. Tom Brady's right behind him, though. Tom Brady's kind of catching up, closing that gap a little bit. 2,805 yards. Obviously, Brady and the Bucs are on a bye this week. So that's not going to necessarily help the cause, if you will. But where your differences are is Patrick Mahomes has 25 and 7 for touchdowns, interceptions. Tom Brady's got 12, a lowly 12, but he's only got 2 picks. So, I mean, you take the good with the bad, right? The Eagles, you can't lose to the Commanders, guys. Remember when Aaron Rodgers, after the Packers lost to the Detroit Lions, Aaron Rodgers said, "You can't lose to a team like that." That's how I feel about the Eagles and the Commanders. If you missed the rant yesterday, go ahead, go watch the replay, tune in. It was the beginning of the show. Outside of being outplayed and having 51 total plays ran by the Washington Commanders, where they owned that first half. They 100% owned that first half. We're looking now at an Eagles team that was on the wrong side of two really bad calls. One that significantly affected the game, but you can't get it. You cannot let it be to that point. You can't let it get to that point. You cannot allow yourself to have the game close enough to where human error can affect it. You just can't. So we'll see how the Eagles bounce back. You know, if they bounce back and perform well, then I'm no longer worried about the Eagles. But we have to see how they'll bounce back, because the New York Giants are right behind them in my power rankings, fourth best team. Also, only one game back on the Philadelphia Eagles. You know, where the Eagles, so, you know, let's say the Eagles happen to lose and the Giants. Well, no, the Giants play the Lions, so the Giants need to lose on Sunday. But, you know, let's say they get a tied up record here. The Eagles will still hold the division lead right now because they've got a better record inside of their division. They're 2-1 in the division, where the Giants are 0-1 because the Giants obviously lost that game to the Cowboys on Monday Night Football. But the Giants are a force to be reckoned with, man. We talked about this again on Sunday on Channelside Bets. Brian Daboll took that team last year with basically the identical roster, minus a couple guys, and you could argue that they were key contributors. Guys like Evan Ingram. Kadarius Toney's not there. And we talk about, well, they don't ever play. Well, Evan Ingram has not missed a game for Jacksonville. Kadarius Toney, 1 out of 1 games played for the Kansas City Chiefs, and he was supposed to be injured when he was traded. That to me tells me that the Giants' medical staff is problematic, not the players being able to stay healthy. That's what that tells me. But Brian Daboll took this team. He took a team that had a lot of question marks. He took a team that was underperforming. You know, we could talk about Joe Judge and his 4th and 8 sneak. I think that's when he knew that the writing was on the wall for him, though. But he took this team and he turned it around, and he showed you how much coaching in this league matters, because this team should not be 7-2. They shouldn't be 7-2, but here they are. Here they are. The Giants team last year would have been 4-5 at best, 9 weeks into this, or 9 games into the season, heading into the 11th week. They would have been 4-5 at best with Joe Judge as their head coach. Brian Daboll showed this is what you do to get things done. Speaking of great head coaches, Mike McDaniel's got the Miami Dolphins atop the AFC East, 7-3 record. Tua Tagovailoa is looking like an absolute stud. We've got Tyreek Hill leading the NFL in passing or in receiving yards with 1,148. Jalen Waddle is 4th with 878. So Jalen Waddle is close to getting that century or the 1,000-yard mark as well. And the Dolphins are going to have 2,000-yard receivers. Tyreek Hill is on pace for just under 2,000 yards now. He did have a little bit of a down week last week. But I mean, Mike McDaniel's an absolute genius. Who was the number 11 quarterback in passing yards, by the way? And he's only played in 8 games. Just want to throw that one out there. 2,265 yards. He's got 18 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. You know, people all the time talk about, Tua can't make reads. Tua's not playing well. 18-3 says that your made-up stories are nothing more than made-up stories. 18-3 on the season, 71% completion percentage. The only quarterback, I guess technically there's 2, but the only quarterback who's actually playing that has a better completion percentage is Geno Smith. He's got a 72.8% completion rating. Number 1, if you were wondering, is Brian Hoyer, who is 5 of 6 for 83.3%. Like I said, that to me doesn't count. I mean, we can't talk about we got to kill this narrative that Tua doesn't know what he's doing. That Tua is not a good quarterback. We just have to end it. We really do. Saquon Barkley, 931 yards on the season. The Dolphins have kind of a weird dynamic in their backfield. They've got a bunch of like 1A, 1B guys. They've got Raheem Mostert, who's 19th in the league. Got 543 yards on the season. Now they have Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson is 22 in the league? 638 yards. So it's a weird dynamic for the Dolphins in the backfield. But, I mean, they're there anyway, right? Like, that's, like I said, it's a weird dynamic, but that's exactly where they are. I still think they have the scariest offense. Defense needs to tighten up a little bit, though, for me to propel them beyond number 5. That's why I couldn't hold them, or that's why I couldn't move them, and I held them at number 5. I got the Baltimore Ravens at number 6. I think that's kind of, the Ravens. I mean, if you look at the Ravens, the Cowboys, look, the Cowboys obviously got a loss, but we'll talk about that in a moment. The Ravens are getting it done without Mark Andrews. The Ravens are getting it done without J.K. Dobbins, without Gus Edwards, and they're just finding ways to get things done. There's a reason why the Ravens are where they are, right? There's a reason why in this AFC North division that they're atop it. Obviously, we know Pittsburgh's struggling. I called Pittsburgh winning, though, coming off the bye. We know Cleveland is kind of hit or miss, but they've got Deshaun Watson coming back. How is he going to play? Is there going to be magic between Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper, kind of like what we saw with Watson and DeAndre Hopkins a few years ago in Houston? No, the Bengals are starting to figure it out, and they're figuring it out without Jamar Chase. Obviously, they're on a bye this week, so they didn't play, but they may get Jamar Chase back. They still have T. Higgins. They still have Tyler Boyd. They still have, Hayden Hurst. They still have Joe Mixon. Oh, and by the way, Joe Burrow is their quarterback. So, they're still figuring it out. They're one game over 500, plus 43-point differential. They're scoring points. They're scoring points. Joe Mixon on that 5-touchdown game, maybe he starts turning it on again, and we start seeing a resurgence from Joe Mixon. But Baltimore's holding them off. Baltimore's 6-3 on the season. They're impressive. We can't say anything else about the Baltimore Ravens other than they're just an impressive team. And they're an absolute stupid team if they don't do everything in their power to keep Lamar Jackson there long term. And I'm sure that that's going to be a conversation that they'll have. I'm sure they're going to have, or at the very least, franchise tag him. Right now, I know people are saying, well, Lamar's not going anywhere. They're going to franchise tag him. You can do a franchise tag and trade. It's happened before. It'll happen again. Will it happen with Lamar Jackson? We don't know. I guess it depends on what the compensation is. Right? I would assume that if you can't get a long-term deal done with Lamar Jackson, because if they're sitting 6-3 and they're the sixth best team in the NFL, if you can't get a long-term deal done with him, you're not going to hold him hostage. You're going to try and recoup whatever you can for him, is because he's putting together a great season. So if you guys can't figure it out financially, you're going to reap the spoils of a trade. You're going to absolutely reap the spoils of a Lamar Jackson trade if you can't figure out a long-term deal. So I'm already on the phone calling about Lamar Jackson if I'm several GMs. If I'm being totally honest, we hear the narrative all the time. Lamar Jackson is a running back. Lamar Jackson is a running back. We don't hear that about Justin Fields, who broke Michael Vick's record, right? Can't pass really to save his life. We make up these weird narratives, and especially for Buccaneers fans, right? That's what pisses me off the most about Buccaneers fans when you talk about Lamar Jackson is, we don't need him. It doesn't fit the scheme. Byron Leftwich is probably not here next season. So there is no scheme for him to fit. There's going to be a new scheme. There's going to be a new scheme. And if you've watched the offensive line, not nearly as bad as everybody has been saying, but they could clean it up a little bit better. And they could protect the pocket a little bit cleaner. And if they can't, guess what? Now you get a mobile quarterback because you don't have to worry about keeping that pocket clean because he's going to make plays with his feet behind the line of scrimmage. There's your case for Lamar Jackson. Oh, we can't afford him. They'll figure it out. If they want Lamar Jackson, they'll figure out how to afford him. It's not your job to crunch the salary cap numbers. It's your job to be a fan of the team. That's your sole purpose with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, is to be a fan of the team. If Lamar Jackson is at all available, there should be 30 teams calling? Maybe a few less. But obviously, like the Chiefs aren't going to call. Vikings might call. Kirk Cousins kind of getting up there in age. Vikings might call. Oh, the Cowboys might call. Who knows with Dak? Who knows? Cowboys are my 7th overall team. We can kind of transition from the Ravens to the Cowboys. Look, I know the Cowboys lost to Green Bay, but it wasn't an ugly loss to Green Bay, in my opinion. It wasn't an ugly loss, and they still look like a formidable team, right? Outside of Christian Watson just having a Randy Moss style game, Green Bay is obliterated, right? Like if Christian Watson doesn't catch 3 passes for 3 touchdowns and 100+ yards, Green Bay is absolutely obliterated in that game. So when I look at the Dallas Cowboys, that defense is still ridiculous. The offense is still improving. Like Michael Gallup is still working the rust off. CeeDee Lamb putting up numbers week in and week out. I'm still a huge fan of Dak Prescott. Still think Dak Prescott is a great quarterback. Call me crazy, but I think Dak Prescott is still a very great quarterback. I'd be happy to have Dak in a Buck uniform. Not gonna lie, I would be. And look, you have to before anybody. You know what? We'll jump into that after the power rankings. Let's finish up the power rankings here real quick. Number 8, I've got the New York Jets. Of course, the Jets didn't move, but they beat the Bills. Last time they played, they beat the Bills. You gotta give them some credit. The last time they played, they beat the Buffalo Bills. Not an easy task. That to me didn't show that it was a fluke. That shows that they are a legitimate team. Rebuilding, sure, maybe overachieving a little bit, but they're playing well enough to be in my top 10 power rankings. I got Buffalo sliding all the way down to number 9. You got to figure it out, guys. Absolutely must figure out what is happening, what is going on with your team. Now, Josh Allen didn't look terrible. Josh Allen looked like he was playing pretty damn well. Stephon Diggs had a big game. They're still struggling to run the ball. This is the issue that I have with the Buffalo Bills, is that they're still struggling to run the ball. If we start looking at, if I pull these numbers up, I'm going to pull these up here real quick. If we look at the Buffalo Bills rushing numbers, Devin Singletary is 394 yards on the season. That's it. Josh Allen has 476 yards on the season. Is Josh Allen just a running back? Not bad for a running back. 2,733 yards. And don't try to tell me that we can't compare. Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson can't be compared. Josh Allen has Stephon Diggs as a wide receiver. Lamar Jackson has me. Like, we can't compare the two, right? Like, it's not even close to being fair. So we can't compare the two. I'm just saying, quarterback leading the team in rushing yards. We like to pick and choose when we hate on people for that, right? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm gonna say. But they can't run the ball at all. Leading scorer on the ground for the Buffalo Bills is who? Oh, it's Josh Allen. He's got 4 touchdowns. Devin Singletary, 2. Can't run the ball. If you can't run the ball, you make it easy for defenses to slow you down. Now, I know Stephon Diggs, 985 yards on the season. Stephon Diggs is going to get his, right? Gabe Davis is going to show up and get his every now and then as well. He's got 5 touchdowns on the season. Diggs has 7. You know, Gabe Davis is 544 yards. He's very close to closing in on a 1,000-yard season with his averages. He's averaging 68 per year, 68 yards per game. Obviously, we know Stephon Diggs. We know where he's going to land. But it's such a weird dynamic for a team to be so damn good and not be able to run the ball. You know, they'll figure it out on defense. I've got no second thoughts about the Buffalo Bills. But they just need to figure it out. 49ers, I've got number 10. Look, 49ers are going to hang around probably, I would assume, the remainder. For being totally honest here, I would assume the 49ers are going to hang around for the remainder of this. I think next week they end up taking over the division. Because they're 3-0 in the division. The Seahawks are 2-1. The 49ers get it. If the 49ers get it done, which obviously we'll talk about tomorrow. But if the 49ers get it done on Monday night, they're taking over the division, because then they're not going to just have the best record in the division. They're also going to be 4-0 in the division. That's where you want to be if you're the San Francisco 49ers. I want to talk about quarterbacks. I want to talk about Lamar Jackson. I want to talk about what I find problematic with Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans. We're going to take one more pause from our friends over at BetUS. We'll be back, wrap up our NFL, look forward to the Magic, and then kind of chop it up about the Tampa Bay Lightning getting it done in overtime. We'll be right back.
Listen up, sports fans. Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
We are back. Head on over to BetUS.com. Use the promo code Channelside. They will hook you up with a 125% deposit bonus. Trusted for nearly 3 decades in the sports wagering game. It doesn't get much better than this, folks. Head on over to BetUS.com and tell them that Channelside Sports sent you. All right, so what I wanted to talk about is this weird... this weird dynamic that our Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan base has of so-and-so, it's not going to fit. And we'll use Lamar Jackson, right? We'll use Lamar Jackson as the example here. We hear all the time, oh, well, he's not going to fit the scheme. He doesn't fit the scheme. We're not trading for Lamar Jackson after the trade deadline this season. We do not know if Byron Leftwich will be here after this season. We do not know if he's going to be interviewed with another team to possibly take over the head coaching position. We don't know if Todd Bowles is going to be here after this season. Hell, and to be completely fair, we don't know if Tom Brady's actually going to be here after the season. We don't know if he's going to come back. All signs show that he might even come back right now. He's got this new relit fuse inside of his body. He might come back. We don't know. But we can't say a guy doesn't fit a scheme when the scheme's going to change the next season. Well, Lamar doesn't fit it. He's a mobile quarterback. I hate to break it to you guys, but the way this Buccaneers team is playing right now, they'd be much better off with a mobile quarterback than a pocket passing quarterback. If you can't run the ball, look at other teams that are struggling to run the ball. You think Tom Brady is going to lead the Buccaneers in rushing yards like Josh Allen is for the Bills? Or Lamar Jackson is for the Ravens? You think Tom Brady at the ripe age of 45 years old is going to be doing that? I don't think so. It's not going to happen. But if you can't run the ball and you've got a mobile quarterback, now you're still forced to respect the run. Sure, does Rachaad White take over RB1 and make me 2 for 2 in my hot takes in the offseason? Sure. Does he look better than Leonard Fournette running the ball? Yes. But all of these problems could have been solved if there was a mobile quarterback. Right? Tom Brady's never been a mobile quarterback because he's never needed to be a mobile quarterback. That's super hard to say. But we're looking at a team that can't run the ball, and a quick Band-Aid over that is to have a quarterback that can run the ball. That's how you put a quick little Band-Aid over top of that problem. That's how you do it. So don't tell me, oh, it doesn't fit the scheme. You don't know what the scheme is. You don't know what the scheme is. Oh, well, Lamar Jackson can't pass the ball. Lamar Jackson leads the NFL in dropped passes by his wide receivers. On target drops over the last 3 seasons. On target drops. It's what happens when you have scrubs as wide receivers. You think Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Julio Jones and Russell Gage, you think they're going to let Lamar Jackson? Do you think he's going to lead the league in dropped passes, in on-target dropped passes? If he has that core of wide receivers, you're out of your mind. You're absolutely out of your mind. Now, you may be going, well, Kyle Trask has the same guys. But Kyle Trask is never... If we really think that Kyle Trask, if you're going to look at me right now and tell me that the third string quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Kyle Trask, is on any sort of trajectory to be a league MVP, please slide into my DMs. I need to screenshot whatever you're going to tell me. I need to screenshot that story as to how you think that Kyle Trask is on any sort of trajectory to be anywhere in the same conversation as Lamar Jackson is. That's what I need from you. And we talk about, like Dak Prescott's not a good... Who do we have? Who do the Buccaneers have at quarterback after the next season? Ryan Griffin? No. I need that Bugs Bunny meme. And Kyle Trask. 2 wrongs don't make a right. And that, my friend, that is 2 wrongs. We have to get off of this. Yeah, no thanks. Don't want that guy. No, thank you. Because the guys that we have, we don't have any guys. That's the problem. There's no guys after this season. Does Tom Brady come? Maybe Tom Brady comes back. Right? Maybe Tom Brady comes back, but we don't know that. That's the problem, is we don't know if Tom Brady's going to come back. And that's why I'm kind of okay with Tom Brady not coming back, so we can start figuring out where we're going to go for the future. If we look up the quarterbacks that are free next year, because let's be real, the Bucs are not going to get a top 2 quarterback. Tom Brady, technically free. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Jimmy G, Teddy Bridgewater, Daniel Jones, Case Keenum, Mason Rudolph, Jacoby Brissett, Geno Smith, Joe Flacco, Andy Dalton, Mike White, CJ Beathard, Kyle Allen, Taylor Heineke, Lamar Jackson, Chad Henne, Nick Mullins. Cooper Rush is free. I trust Cooper Rush more than Kyle Trask. Cooper Rush has actually played well in NFL games. And he's played well enough to where people are actually in Dallas Cowboys circles are talking about the Cowboys trading away Dak Prescott and rolling with Cooper Rush for the future, largely in part because Dak is way more expensive than Cooper Rush. And that will allow the Cowboys to do other things with that money. I don't know about you, but if Dak Prescott is available, I'm calling up Jerry Jones and I'm saying, yo, buddy, what do you need for Dak Prescott? What are you looking to get for Dak Prescott? We've got our core players under contract for 3 seasons, but we don't got anybody at quarterback. We'll give you fan favorite Kyle Trask. He's, according to a lot of guys, he's going to be a future MVP. We'll let you test those waters. How about that? Yeah, that's not going to happen. You know how many people are interested in Kyle Trask in the NFL? In the front office? Yeah, it's silent, right? Because that's how many people are calling Jason Light about Kyle Trask. So we can't say that Lamar Jackson doesn't fit. We can't say that he doesn't fit a scheme because you don't know what the scheme's going to be next season. And if you get a former MVP who is putting together an MVP caliber season this year, you adjust your scheme to fit that player anyway. What's going to change? What would actually change if the Buccaneers had Lamar Jackson as their quarterback, or any mobile quarterback for that matter? What actually changes in the scheme? They're already running screens because they can't run the ball, right? They're already running screens. What exactly is going to change? Baltimore's still sending wide receivers out. Mike Evans is still going to run a route. Chris Godwin is still going to run a route. What is actually going to change when you talk about scheming? What actually is going to change? The only thing that changes, if you swap right now, if we swap Tom Brady and Lamar Jackson, or Tom Brady and even Patrick Mahomes, right? I know he's not as mobile or he still is, but that's not how Andy Reid wants him to play. But if you switch Tom Brady with any mobile quarterback, what exactly changes scheme-wise? I'll wait. I'll wait to hear it because nothing is going to change scheme-wise. You just don't want a mobile quarterback. That's what it is. You don't want Lamar Jackson because you read a box score that says, oh, wow, he only completed 40% of his passes. Because box scores don't show you that wide receivers drop half of those 40%. You don't see that because you don't look into it. And that's fine. You don't have to look into it. But don't sit here and tell me, yeah, no thanks. Former league MVP, no thank you. I don't want him. Don't like that to me, that's ridiculous. I don't even want to entertain that thought anymore because that's just absolutely stupid. Right? Baker Mayfield, kind of a mobile quarterback. Why don't we pick up Baker Mayfield? Honestly. Who does Baker Mayfield have in Carolina that is such a great wide receiver for us to compare him to how he should perform in Tampa Bay with 3 wide receivers that are very good? And a tight end in Cade Otton, who is really stepping it up, right? Who does Baker Mayfield have in Carolina? Oh, well, he's got Ben. Who does Baker Mayfield have? DJ Moore? Sure, I'll give you DJ Moore. DJ Moore is not Mike Evans. The closest comparison in terms of production I will allow you to compare DJ Moore to is what we thought Russell Gage was going to be this season. Chris Godwin, can't compare DJ Moore to Chris Godwin. We've got a 1A, 1B situation in Tampa Bay with those 2 guys. Anything else that we have is just absolute icing on the cake. So again, don't say, oh no, we don't want Baker. Give Trask a chance. Trask has had chances and he's not seizing the opportunity. We got to move on. You have to look at the quarterback. Again, my issue is when you immediately and when fans immediately go, no thanks, I don't want him. Nope, we don't need him. We don't want him. We don't need him. If there's a starting quarterback that is available next season and Tom Brady does decide to retire, I don't care who it is. It could be Jameis Winston. We need him. We need him because he's better than Kyle Trask. And he's better than Ryan Griffin, who nobody's ever even really seen play in a live game. Like, he's better than both of those guys. And those are the only two guys that are on the roster next season. That's it. That's all. So I don't care who it is. We need him. Period. You can make your little arguments all you want, but the fact remains that a starting quarterback is always going to be better than a third string quarterback. Always. And a starting quarterback is always going to be better than a practice squad quarterback. Always. Don't know what to tell you guys. I really don't. I don't know what to tell you guys about it. It's just, it's kind of crazy to me. Kind of bonkers, if you ask me. We got the Timberwolves rolling into town tonight to take on the Magic. At a 7 p.m. tip-off. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about this. Timberwolves are favored. They're oddly struggling. They're 6-8. When you've got Karl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell, and Rudy Gobert, and you're struggling to win, I mean, that just kind of tells me that you're just early on in the season trying to figure it out. Paolo Banchero is not listed. It looks like he is still. We're assuming he's still going to be out. The big problem for me is Wendell Carter Jr. is day to day right now. That's the big problem to me. Because if we can't get the big guys to pull down some boards, we could be in trouble. We could shoot very well, right? We could be shooting fantastically. But man, they've got the new generation version of Tim Duncan and David Robinson in Minnesota with two guys that are just absolute towers. I tried to mind how I said it because I don't like to use the terminology of what we used to call Robinson and Duncan. But it's kind of a scary game, honestly, for the Orlando Magic tonight, because you could be in trouble with not having Banchero. You could be in trouble with not having Dell. You could be in trouble. Obviously, Gary Harris is out, but Gary Harris hasn't been really anything super special for us, right? I think that's what that boils down to. But I mean, if you scroll through the injury reports, you've got Gary Harris out, Wendell Carter Jr. day to day, but he's got plantar fascia in his right foot, so he's probably not going to play. Paolo Banchero, he's questionable for tonight, probably not going to play. Mo Wagner, out. Markelle Fultz, still out, but hoping that he's back very soon. Cole Anthony, expected to be back towards the end of November, and Jonathan Isaac, expected to be back never. The longest injury list in the NBA belongs to our Orlando Magic. And it's not just backups that are getting injured. That's the problem. It's superstar Paolo Banchero, perennial star Wendell Carter Jr., starting point guard Markelle Fultz. Right? Like, we're missing key pieces Possible sixth man, Cole Anthony. Maybe start. I don't know how that dynamic is going to work. That'll be interesting once we all get fully healthy on here. But they've got a laundry list of injured players. And the problem is it's not a laundry list of, yeah, we'll be all right. It's a laundry list of, crap. We can't afford to miss this guy. We can't afford to miss that guy. We need them on the floor. Fortunately, it's just not in the cards for them tonight or this season. At least in the early part of this season, it's not. For this first month, it's kind of a struggle for them. So playing against the Timberwolves tonight, I absolutely believe that the Timberwolves are favored. And if I'm being honest, I feel like the Timberwolves are probably going to take the W out of the O tonight and drop the Magic down again. I just don't see a way by missing so much. Like, look, Bull has stepped up. Mo Bamba has been decent off of the bench. But you're missing nearly 10 rebounds a game from Dell, nearly 25 points a game from Paulo. What is Dell averaging point wise too? Like you're going to be missing a lot of contributions. And for a team that has struggled to get contributions off of the bench, that is going to be where you see this struggle. Right? Dell's averaging just over 16.3 per game. Right? Paulo's averaging 8 rebounds a game. Cole Anthony was averaging 15 points a game. 4 assists. We talk about all the time. The assists need to go up. Well, the guys that are averaging a lot of assists, Dell's averaging 3. Paulo's averaging 3. 3-6. Cole Anthony's averaging 4-3. Guys that are racking up assists are also not playing because they're injured. I feel like we got like a New York Giants situation here where we just can't keep people healthy. It's just nuts. But they've got to figure it out. You know what? To me, this is where you really see the camaraderie of a young team is going into this game tonight. Their backs are against the wall. Their backs are 100% against the wall because we don't expect Banchero to play. I wouldn't expect Dell to play. Now you're missing your 2 perennial big men. And I said, sure, Bull has stepped it up. He's averaging 11-6 and 7-6. Right? Bull has stepped it up. Mo Bamba's done decent off of the bench. But we're going to need more from Mo Bamba off of the bench tonight. Because he's likely going to be a starter tonight. If both Dell and Banchero are out. And that does make me feel uncomfortable. Because if you're telling me you're going to put Bull and Bamba against Cat and Gobert, we've got to be realistic with ourselves here. It's heavily slanted in favor of Minnesota. Heavily slanted in favor of Minnesota. Look, Karl Anthony Towns says some outlandish nonsense. But when he called himself the best shooting big man of all time, statistically, he ain't wrong. He statistically is correct in that assessment where he says that he is the greatest shooting big man of all time. He has the highest field goal percentage of anybody. It's weird. Is it weird? Yeah, because he doesn't really do much, right? I mean, he's the leading scorer for the Minnesota Timberwolves, right? But the team doesn't really do much, so it kind of flies under the radar. But I'm telling you what, it's going to be a very difficult game. But like I said, this will tell me what I need to know about the heart of this team playing with their backs against the wall. How is the camaraderie? Who's going to step up? Are we going to see Franz step up? Are we going to see Jalen Suggs step up? Who is going to fill the void of not having a leader on the floor? Because if we're being honest, you go Paulo Banchero as your leader, and maybe you could possibly interchange Franz and Dell, but I think that's your next in line. And if your next in line is Dell, you're now missing 1 and 2. Like, imagine if Imagine the Miami Heat missing Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler. That's their 1-2. Imagine that, right? Like that doesn't bode well for any team, especially a team that's still trying to figure things out like the Magic are. All I'm asking for, just like I've been saying all season. When I looked at the schedule when it dropped and I saw this matchup, I wasn't alarmed. I was like, all right, cool. Gobert is new. He's still going to be trying to work out, some chemistry issues with Karl Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell. And I wasn't concerned, but now I am concerned because our guys are dropping like flies. And that to me is a cause of concern. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how it plays out. All I'm asking is that if they're going to be on the losing side, be competitive. Do not be blown out. They're 4-9 on the season. They have not been blown out at all. 4-10, I apologize, but they have not been blown out. And that's all you could ask for. Because if you're not being blown out, that means that you lost a winnable game. If you're being blown out, that just means that you were bested that night. And it can happen to any team. Right? Look at the Sacramento Kings. They dropped 153 points last night on the Brooklyn Nets. 153 points. That's ridiculous. They're shooting lights out. But that's a blowout, right? Won by 31 points. 32 points. That's a blowout. From a rebuilding team over top of a playoff team. I don't want to see the Magic on anything like that. Because that to me just shows me you just got blown out. You didn't lose a winnable game. If you lose winnable games, those to me are more beneficial to your learning experience and your learning curve and bringing in certain things into your skill set. If you're losing winnable games, you can very easily dissect what went wrong. If you're losing by 32 points, it all went wrong. Burn the tape. We're not even going to watch it. That's not beneficial when you've got a young team. It's not. So I'm not looking. I don't want. I'm hoping. I'm praying to the basketball gods. I got the fingers crossed. I don't want to see a blowout tonight. But it's entirely possible that we could if we're missing 1 and 2 tonight. So we'll have to see. That is going to wrap it up for us on this Wednesday edition of Channelside in the Morning, live from the Channelside Sports Network. Thank you for those who tuned in. Thank you. Hit the thumbs up button in the chat who retweeted. Tomorrow, Thursday, NFL Pick'em, but most importantly, Christmas movie Pick'em. That's what we're doing. The greatest Christmas movie. I'm going to give my Christmas movie power rankings are coming out tomorrow. I can't wait. I want to hear from all of you in the chat. I really do. Tag a friend, tell a friend they need to tune in tomorrow. They need to debate this with us. Will Die Hard be in my top 10? I don't know. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie or is it not a Christmas movie? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I'm stoked for that show. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the power rankings talk today and trying to figure out this weird dynamic that Bucks fans have about quarterbacks and schemes that are going to change anyway. So we'll do it all over again tomorrow. Make sure you search for the Channelside Sports Network on all of the social media platforms. If you want to chop it up with me, just look me up, Real Danny B. I'm Facebook, Twitter. I prefer to use Twitter though. So for calling a spade here. I'll see you guys all tomorrow. Enjoy your Wednesday. Almost made it halfway through the week. Can't get any easier than that.